Thank you for having me on. This is going to be quite an interesting experience.
Yeah. First of all, how how did live streaming start for you?
That that is an interesting one, actually. It's a surprisingly personal reason. So, I've always been fairly fascinated with the content creation space. Go figure, I've been a big nerd my whole life. But I was coming off of a particularly rough job, which left me with a physical injury that made it so I am no longer eligible to do standard work. And I was during that time, I actually came across a few up and coming VTubers at the time. Is like, you know what? Fuck it, I can do that. Probably. At least it's worth a shot. It's better than just wallowing in the inability to do anything. And well, I started on a whim, and here we are almost a year later. Been quite an experience.
Are you willing to talk about the what happened at work that sparked the whole
Yeah,
thing?
so I was previously working as a janitor for the local school board, and I ended up developing a repeated strain injury in the bottom of my foot. Effectively, I shredded a tendon in the bottom of my foot that prevents me from standing or walking for long periods of time anymore. That, with a few other disabilities, which I won't go into, uh, led me to consult my doctor, and well, they said you are no longer physically fit to work, which did send me down a bit of a spiral. And it, it sounds sappy, but it really is not an understatement to say that the VTubing community is what pulled me out of the gutter. I was in a fairly rough spot, and I managed to find a community that has been surprisingly accepting and very open and caring. It really did shock me because I've never been a very social person. So coming into a space like this, I'd say it's been a great experience.
And it was the VTubing community that brought you in.
Yes, specifically, it was a VTuber named the Core of Midas. I was just doom scrolling on YouTube Shorts, and I kept coming across her shorts back when she had like 800 followers on YouTube. And I'd just see like five or six of them daily, and it's like, you know what? They're talking in a space that sounds very similar to where I am at the time, or where I was at the time, and it kind of gave me that push to like actually venture into the creator space. It's like I think within that week of me finding them and kind of like deep diving into the community, it really just started putting all these puzzle pieces together. And it's like, you know what, this could work. This feels right.
Do you think you would have found your way out without VTubing, without like interacting with the community at all?
It's hard to say. It could. I really do think it's just that one in a million chance. Everything fell into place at the right time. It could have been something else, but the reality is it was the VTubing community that I found, and that's where I am now. And it's not to say that I haven't had an interest in the community beforehand. It was more of a passing interest, though, rather than a full, like, I'm deep diving into the community. Because, like, I followed a couple VTubers for a long time. Like I was there when I think it was Kizuna AI started, the first AI VTuber or fully AI VTuber. I don't fully remember. It's been such a long time.
Oh yeah, it
But
has.
like I remember seeing like the start of Hololive and a lot of them. It's like, hey, that's neat, and just kind of going on with my day because it was an adjacent space. Because like I've always been into like the anime manga communities and that, and like that's always been something I've been interested in. So VTubing has always been kind of just outside the boundaries of my circles. And I always thought it was interesting. I just never really took that dive until last year.
You've also answered one of my other questions as to why VTubing as opposed to like I guess for like a better term, regular live streaming.
Ah, that is actually a very simple question or simple answer. I greatly value my privacy and anonymity. Uh, Even since I was just a wee creature, I don't think a single one. Actually, no. There is exactly one email I've ever used that actually has like proper information about myself, and that was strictly for work. Every other social media account, anything else that's like in reference to myself as a person, has never had any information about me. So VTubing very much made sense in that regard.
Mm-hmm. And
Not to say that I am not myself when I stream in that. It's just I am. I'm trying to think of a good way to phrase it. Like I portray my personality, that sense of myself, but I keep any personal information very much hidden.
yes. Where do you see VTubing going for you?
Well, ideally, I would like to turn it into a full-fledged career. Realistically speaking, I don't know. This has always been, at least from my understanding, a very volatile industry where a lot of things can change incredibly fast. I think a great example of that is, well, the core of Midas and Styx, or that Styx. I was there when Styx's channel absolutely exploded. Like the first live stream I caught from her was the one where like she jumped up a good couple like dozen followers or something, and it's just been constant growth from that point. And the same thing with Midas. And I've seen it go the other way where people stagnate for a while and get these huge jumps and then these steady declines. And I I'd like to think I have a fairly realistic expectation of how streaming will go for me, but I can't say that I'm not idealistic about it as well, because goddamn, I would love to have a marketable plushie. I keep putting these little notes in the background as like, hey, these are some neat merch ideas. Maybe one day I can actually do it. But for now, it's like, hey, you've got 15 other projects you need to work on. Let's get those done first. And I know I'm not a huge VTuber. Like I have an average viewing of maybe like 10, 15 people on a good day. But from what I've seen, that's my growth in the space has been quite fast, comparatively.
On the topic of marketable plushies, could you tell me a bit about the character that you have?
Yes. So my persona, we'll say, for lack of a better term, Yumei Aishi, is a homunculus chimera. Effectively, I was created as an artificial life form by slapping together a bunch of different species because I am a sucker for speculative biology and monster girls. So I've tried to design the character within the constraints of reality while keeping as much of an inhuman design as possible, if that makes sense. Despite being fairly humanoid, that's besides the point. There's other things going on there that I can't get into yet.
Okay, so all the like animals that are like mixed in there, that's a secret for now.
Oh no, that's fully out there. I actually keep a list because there's quite a few. Let me see if I can find it. It's in one of these sticky notes I keep on my desk. Da, 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 da. I think it's this one. Yeah, here we go. So the things that make a Yumei is the ibex, a cave lion, a tokay gecko, the dragon snake, a bit of pumin, sundew, and bush viper.
Okay,
That is the tentative list at the moment.
yeah, I see the ibex with the horns, but
Hmm.
the cave line I don't really see. Where is that? The character's
It's
at.
mostly the like the mane, the very fluffy hair, the claws, and the digitigrade legs and foot structure.
Okay, okay, so, and you went with a cave lion specifically. Now that's an extinct animal.
Yes, due to that's tying into some of the lore stuff. The character is in incredibly old person. Like she is very aged and decrepit. Presumably created sometime in the Dark Ages through alchemy.
Ah, okay.
Which, for those of you who follow the lore, that's new information.
The new lore drop right here.
Yeah, live lore drop. But yeah, a lot of this was mostly just, okay, let's go with for the basic idea of a chimera, which is typically the serpent, the lion, and the goat. In some other depictions, it also includes dragon. In this case, I chose a particular species of snake I found when doing research for like scale patterns in the design, which was the Xenodermis, or the dragon snake. Absolutely beautiful animal.
Yeah, so you really went in on designing your character.
Ah, yes. Like I said, I've always been a fan of speculative biology, which is the basically what could be real, what would function in our world under the current laws of physics that we understand, and how biology would function. So, how can I make something feel real yet be very alien in that sense?
Have you always been a fan of biology?
Oh yes, I have loved animals and that. Ever since I was a wee child, I never really grew out of that loving dinosaurs phase as a kid. Then that kind of evolved. You see the dragons, and then you learn more and more about it, and you get into like folklore in that. And it's like, oh, suddenly you hear things about like the Kraken, and you go into a bit more research, and it turns out, hey, every bit of folklore has a bit of truth behind it. In the sense of the Kraken, we have the colossal squid, which there are records of it coming near the surface, and it likely attacked ships. That's where the myth of the Kraken comes from. Like we have all of these things because when you look at like paintings of medieval animals, like the unicorn is another great example. Imagine you lived in almost complete isolation. You've never left your small village, and somebody from somewhere else comes and tells you about a large mammalian creature. And the only way they can kind of describe it is like, yeah, it's kind of like a horse, but it's got a big horn right in the middle. like right in the middle of its face. And that's kind of where you get the idea of a unicorn, but they're talking about a rhino.
Yeah, 'cause the only frame of reference you have is a horse, maybe a cow.
Hmm. That's like when you think about the history of like mythology and cryptids and that, there's a lot of things that kind of bring credence to how these myths started. And we haven't explored our world enough to fully discredit every single one of these. Like that's kind of where speculative biology comes into play. Is like, could this thing actually exist? A great example of this, I think, is the Loch Ness monster. Large aquatic reptile that could have survived from I don't remember when it was. We'll say the Jurassic period. And in theory, that's completely possible. We've seen it before with hell, sharks, the coelacanth, the nautilus. There have been several like species we thought were extinct that have just kind of just been there this whole time. We just couldn't find them.
We're gonna be a bit of a tangent here, but on topic of a Loch Ness monster, like I personally don't believe in it. I don't think there's enough like biomass in that lake to support a creature like that.
I believe it's highly unlikely, but the point is it could be there. The general logic tracks to support that something like this could happen. The fact that there's probably a plesiosaur in the loch is highly unlikely, but it's the idea of something like this could happen. When it comes to chimeras, because that's one of the things like that's very important about my character. Uh, Chimerism is actually a real thing. It's a very rare genetic condition that happens even in humans when I want to describe it as a near perfect fuse of two embryos that allows a person to have two sets of DNA. It's incredibly rare, but it is possible. That's kind of where a lot of the design tropes from the character came is like, could this be done?
Is that
And if
how
so, why?
is that how stuff like heterochromia happens?
I'm not 100% sure on that, but it could be. The research papers are very long and very wordy, and my dyslexic ass ain't gonna be able to read all that. I typically go for like bullet points of information. So whatever I say, take it with a grain of salt. It could be wrong. Hell, the information I'm quoting is fairly old too, so new studies might be out now too. But it's always just been something that I found fascinating, and it's always leaked into my art and how I design characters. Because believe it or not, the character I am working with now is like I want to say like a third or fourth generation design of a character whose lore, personality that has changed dramatically from their initial design.
How long have you been like workshopping this character?
This iteration of the character really only went through maybe 3 or 4 phases of design. So I want to say the first design process took place in the month leading up to me starting streaming, and then about 2 months after streaming, I kind of finalized the design of the character. But a lot of what this character is and their initial designs comes from a few of my older OC characters from a bunch of other nonsense. That's like, oh, I really like this design idea. I'll take that and put it into this new character. So it's The more I think about it, it's like, yeah, this really is just a chimera. Not only in the literal sense, but of the like previous ideas I've had for characters. It really does just work out perfectly.
So the last time I had watched you live, I believe you're playing the most recent Monster Hunter game.
Yes.
Have
So
you
I
been
have let that get.
have you
Hmm?
been playing Monster Hunter long? The
Yes,
series.
I have been playing Monster Hunter. I picked up the game originally when I was in high school, probably around the 10th grade. And I have been playing it ever since the second generation. Back in high school, I bought a ticket for a buddy of mine to an anime convention, and instead of just paying me back, he handed me a jailbroken PlayStation Portable, and it's like, hey, can you help me get Monster Hunter on this? Because I've been playing the 3DS version. It's like, I want to try one of the older games. And I may or may not have put a couple hundred hours in that game. And then I did the same for the next title, and the next title, and the next title, and the next title. Even in Wilds, I think I'm up to, I can check my Steam. I have that open right now. Yeah, I currently have 241 hours in Monster Hunter Wilds, and I have all but 4 achievements. I have 46 out of 50.
Yeah,
I
that is how like most people who are into Monster Hunter play the game. All a lot of it and all of it.
Yeah, this was the first one I kind of decided, yeah, I'm gonna platinum this one. So I have made every single piece of low rank equipment, every single piece of cat armor. I'm working on making every single weapon and piece of high rank armor and all that. And the only thing left to do achievement wise is crown hunt. So I just have to hunt the smallest and biggest monsters in the game. Monster Hunter has also been a massive source of inspiration for my character's design. I will be fully honest.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask about that. Yeah, how much of a like did it influence you becoming more into biology, or is there more of a vice versa thing?
I I want to say it was twofold. Monster Hunter definitely redoubled my interest in, especially in speculative biology. I've got the world's art book sitting on a shelf over there, and the designers for the game are very much in the same camp as me, where they try to design something that is very much in the constraints of reality. Minus the Elder Dragons. The Elder Dragons are their own thing. They get to ignore the rules of physics. But everything else, like you look into the art books and they'll tell you, it's like, okay, we have to design this like this because it needs to move like this. The creatures, when you look at them, is like if they have the ability to spew electricity, it's because they have an organ similar to an electric eel. A number of reasons like that. It's one of the things that kind of like really brought me into the idea of biology, like speculative biology within the constraints of the world. I'm going to keep saying that because I can't phrase it better. It's never good at English.
Are there any other games that like spark that similar like itch?
For the biology stuff, not really. Like I've always loved monsters and creatures and all that, but on the speculative biology front, not really. But I've played a lot of other games where big monsters are an important thing. Like I've always loved Pokemon. I've been playing a lot of Pal World in the last over the last while. Uh, Dragon's Dogma has always been just one of my favorite games. I love the Dark Souls series. It really just anything fantasy with big monsters. Hell, I'm a sucker for kaiju. Like I've got a bunch of Godzilla figures. I love the Pacific Rim movies, even though the second one isn't that great. Still a lot of fun though. It's like I've always just been that person. Mecha and big monsters. That is, how can you not love it?
There's always a lot of crossing streams between mecha and kaiju.
Oh yeah, ever since I want to say Ultraman.
Yeah, it always crosses over into the Monster Hunter, the Pokemon, all that.
Hmm. Like I've always been a big nerd. It's simple as that. Hell, as a kid, I wanted to be a paleontologist, and then decided I'd go into biology, and then eventually it went into animation, and now I'm a VTuber. Crazy how, as much as things change, they all stay the same. It's always been about interesting creatures.
Do you think there's still a possibility for you to go more into biology or paleontology?
Honestly, no. I've come to learn a lot more about how the fields are structured, and I can't see myself ever going into those fields with the prospects of a career. I think it will always stay as kind of that hobby for me, where it's something I find fascinating, I'll enjoy learning about, but I feel if it's something that's like, oh, now I have to make it my job, a lot of the wonder and whimsy of it will be lost because now it's, oh, I have to do it this way. I can't, like, it'll put too much constraint on how I enjoy the subject. So I know people always say, find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's not exactly true. Sometimes if you turn your hobbies into a job, it can kill your joy for the hobby. It's like a good example of that is I play Magic the Gathering. Dear God, I would never want to be a pro Magic player. Just the cost of doing so is astronomical. The amount of stress it takes to actually compete at high level, it's just not worth it for me. I have a lot of respect for the people who can do that, but it is not for me. I think biology kind of comes in the same way. It's a lot of respect to the scientists and researchers who can make it their career. Can't be me.
So what is the balance between your personal life and your between
My
personal life and streaming?
mhm. Honestly, there isn't much of a balance if I'm being real. Uh I due to my current situation, streaming is more or less my income. So I basically wake up, do what needs to get done in the morning, and then sit down and get ready to stream. And more or less rinse and repeat. I take a few days off here and there just to try and avoid burnout, but aside from that, the only like real barrier between my personal life and streaming is I try to keep my social circles very separate in that sense. Like I don't push my streams and that on the people I know in real life. And I won't try to drag the people I know from streaming into real life events. I think that's the main separation, at least for now. Like not to say I wouldn't want to like meet a lot of the people I've come to know through streaming. So I think it would be a good time to sit down, hang out, and just chat with some people. Put a put a face to a name.
Hmm. Is there anything that you're able to do like work wise, like Let's say if streaming doesn't work out as well as you would want.
I mean, there's a few things that I could likely do, but honestly, I've already had a bad experience with a lot of those things. Hell, it wasn't even me doing those things. Because, like, a few years ago, I had a roommate who worked as a like in a call center job. I could, on paper, definitely do a call center job. It's just sitting at my desk taking calls and that. Working a call center job is a goddamn nightmare.
I have worked a call center job. It is one of the worst jobs you could do.
Exactly. Like the main issue is a lot of the stuff that is available to me just is not worth doing for my own sanity,
Mm-hmm.
which there ain't much left there to begin with. I should maintain what I have.
So what is life like at home? Are you living with family?
Yes, due to financial constraints, I currently live with family. It's quite nice, all things considered. I'm more or less allowed to be completely independent. The expectations are more or less what you have for a roommate. Keep your like common spaces clean. Don't make an absolute mess. Don't be an ass. Which I try my best to do all those things, but I'm only human. God knows I let a few things slip here and there, but overall it's quite good. I'd like to get my own place in the future, but until the Canadian housing market crashes, that is not going to happen.
Oh, you live in Canada?
Yes, I am a Canuck of the Great White North, and the housing market here is just abysmal. To put it in perspective, it is easier to buy a literal castle in Europe than a somewhat shitty house in Toronto.
I have a handful of Canadian friends, and I've heard a lot.
Hmm. Our economy is in shambles, and we can only pray things get better. With all the recent things that have been happening uh, between different countries, and that I don't pay too much attention to it. It's not worth the stress in the long run. But can only do so much. Just try to keep my savings at a respectable level, which those are gonna die soon. I'm gonna end up spending a bunch of that because I'm getting a surgery done. It'll be nice.
Now, is you streaming like a known thing in your household?
I'd say yes. I don't think my parents fully understand exactly what I do for a living, but I like they know I make content online, and I have been very much vocal about it is playing video games to an audience, not other content.
Mm-hmm. Are they supportive of it?
I'd say yes. I think they're a bit apprehensive because, well, as it stands, I can't quite support myself off it, but I couldn't really support myself off of any job I've had previously. That's just the living situation here. But I think they're just happy I'm not in the same kind of pit I was in prior. 'Cause to say things were rocky after losing my previous job is an understatement.
Do you feel that you're banking on streaming as a job? Like, do you feel that it's the only thing you can do?
I I would hesitantly say yes. I am aware there are other options available to me, but none of them are nearly as appealing as streaming. And mostly it comes down to I lack certain skill sets, which I am trying to develop. Because I'd like to try my hand at more edited content. Like I have a YouTube channel. I used to post VODs on it. And then I had my hard drive fill up and die, so I kind of stopped doing that. But I'd like to revisit it and like make shorts, make short form videos and that. And there's other projects I'd like to try my hand at. It's like I've seen a lot of other VTubers when they are like introducing lore or model updates for their characters. They have these really nicely animated promo videos. I'd love to try my hand at something like that. I
I
mean, hell, I went to college for animation. For those of you who follow me, subscribe, or even interact with my channel in any way, shape, or form, thank you so much. I really cannot express how much it means to me when I see people interacting in my chat, my Discord, whatever. It always brings a smile to my face.